Welcome to Crossroads. The FBI has released new crime statistics showing that violent crime has dropped across the United States. But the release is being used to fact-check these perceptions that crime has been growing in recent years. And the problem with that is that, while other sources suggest that there's actually some nuance to this. Now, first, let's look at the official data from the FBI. This is released on September 23rd. This is the official FBI statement. It says this: the FBI's crime statistic estimates, based on reported data from 2023, show that national violent crime decreased an estimated 3% in 2023 compared to 2022 estimates. They note that murder and non-negligent manslaughter recorded a 2023 estimate nationwide decrease of 11.6% compared to the previous year. Big drop, they say. And note that in 2023, the estimated number of offenses in the revised rape category saw an estimated 9.4% decrease. They note that aggravated assault figures decreased an estimated 2.8% in 2023, and robbery showed an estimated decrease of 0.3% nationally. Now look, of course, it's an election year this year, so politics was going to be part of the media's reporting on these statistics. And if you look at what the media is saying about this, well, again, they're trying to fact-check Trump, again, with the recent political debates they had with him and Kamala Harris. And they're saying that he's lying about crime statistics and so on. Now, there's a bit of details to this because basically it ties into which set of data you're looking at. But let me show you first what NBC said. NBC News said this. They said crime, including serious violent incidents like murder and rape, dropped nationally from 2022 to 2023, according to new data released by the FBI. They say public perception of crime is often out of step with the facts, especially in the age of social media, ease of digital communications between neighbors and doorbell cameras, when many Americans may be more aware of individual crimes than they would have been in the past. Again, the flood of information, all of us are watching Twitter and other things like that, and we're seeing all these videos of crime, and again, that's forming our perceptions of it. That's what they're suggesting. Now, they note that during a campaign stop in Kittanning, Pennsylvania on Monday evening, former President Donald Trump had a different take on the numbers, claiming crime was through the roof. Now, what's important here, these statistics are being reported in context of policies for the presidential election. Crime has become a political issue. It's not just about crime itself. Donald Trump is saying, hey, crime is through the roof. He's pointing to light on crime policies. You have a lot of these district attorneys who are kind of not prosecuting a lot of crime. You have the concept now of equity when it comes to the way laws are enforced and who faces punishment. And, you have issues, for example, in some states and even some major cities where crimes are not being punished the way they used to. Drugs are, for the most part, decriminalized in a lot of the country. At least most drugs are, at least drug use. You have it, for example, in San Francisco where you can steal around $900 worth of goods and it's not really a major offense. You have, of course, car theft happening now on a pretty large scale, including in a lot of the major cities. And there's very little people can do about this. When it comes to the crime statistics, for the experience of a lot of Americans, what they're seeing is that, hey, I don't feel protected anymore. And the argument here is, well, is that an actual fact? Are you less protected? Or is it something that you believe only because you maybe follow social media too much? That's kind of where the debate is. Now, what's really going on is there's a bit of nuance with all of this. The real fact, and this is kind of where it gets complicated, the real fact is whether you believe that crime is up or down kind of depends on which statistic you want to believe, because there's actually different data sets. Republicans are using one, Democrats are using another. And this is where a lot of the kind of miscommunications are coming into play. It depends on which set of data you want to go by. Crime and public safety have become big issues, especially again in light of these policies and especially in major cities. And because people are worried about this, well, politics are using it. But look, as with a lot of information these days, again, there's some really important nuance. What it comes down to basically, again, is which set of data you want to go by. Some news outlets, for example, noted that the FBI crime statistics, the one that a lot of the other media are going by, the FBI's crime statistics does not include necessarily complete data from some of the most violent cities and towns across America. And the issue with this is there are different sets of data that feed those statistics. The surface picture changes a lot depending on which data set you go by. Now, this is Shore News Network. They say for more than 100 years, the FBI has relied on local law enforcement agencies to submit crime data through its Uniform Crime Reporting Program. This system provided an annual snapshot of crime in America and was considered the gold standard for national crime statistics. But what happened? Well, that changed in 2021 when the FBI moved from the summary reporting system, which focused on top-line numbers like, well, the total number of murders or car thefts, to the more granular national incident-based reporting system. That's the NIBRS. Now, this system, NIBRS, was designed to modernize the way crime is tracked, providing richer details about each incident, including specifics about the victim, the suspect, and the circumstances surrounding the crime. However, this switch caused significant disruption in data collection. Note that many police departments, especially those in large cities like New York City and Los Angeles, were unprepared for the transition and failed to submit their crime data. So how do you have, crime is down and you don't even have statistics from some of the biggest cities? Now note this. According to the Marshall Project, over 6,000 law enforcement agencies representing nearly 1/3 of the nation's total were missing from the FBI's national crime data last year. And note this data gap means that 1/4 of the U.S. population was not represented in the FBI's crime reports. Now look, of course, it's important to note that the missing data is a big issue right now. The big question is whether that is still the issue. Well, here's how the Marshall Project explains the discrepancy in data, again, after the FBI's recent report on crime statistics. Now, this is from the Marshall Project. They say experts say the decline is real, again, the crime drop, but that the interpretation of the numbers is likely exaggerated. And again, so that's the problem you have. It's not just the numbers, it's how you interpret the data. And that's where a lot of the discrepancy is. It says this, zooming out to see the big picture, the overall trend in crime victimization suggests that by 2022, crime had returned to pre-pandemic norms. This messy dispute on crime data points to a more serious problem. The national crime statistics leaves yawning gaps, and collecting better crime data should be a nonpartisan issue. But again, it's become a partisan issue, especially because of the elections. It says this. The recent White House statement about falling crime in 2024 cited the FBI's quarterly crime data, which included numbers from 11,000 police agencies around the country and trumpeted a 26% decrease in homicides. Amazing. And this is what they said, according to Biden. Americans are safer today than when I took office. That's again a statement from the White House. Now notice that nearly 8,000 police agencies were not included in the quarterly crime statistics report, which is where the discrepancy is. How do you have, again, a reflection of the actual state of the country when nearly 8,000 police agencies are not even included in the data? They note that is a relatively new offering, first issued in 2020. It was partly introduced because of the lag that was long plaguing national crime reporting. And notes historically, the agency has only released data annually, about 10 months after the end of the year. While the quarterly reports are more timely, these new ones they are also preliminary because crime data often changes with police investigations, and fewer agencies submit information to the quarterly report than to the annual one. And that's one of the problems, right? How do you say there's an increase in crime when you're not sure a crime was committed? That's where the big issue is. They say as a result, they sometimes contain errors, according to criminologists. Further, it states, for example, the FBI's quarterly data recorded 46 homicides from the New York Police Department, but the department's own data showed 82 murders from the first quarter of this year. And notes that in Dallas, where the FBI's data documented 33 murders, Texas's crime data dashboard showed 50 such incidents. And so if you have like such a huge discrepancy, right, that the FBI says 33 murders, the actual data says 50, or for example in New York where you have 46 homicides reported from the FBI, and you have again, the departments themselves saying there were 82. And that's the big problem here. Which set of data do you go by? One set of data shows crime dropped. The other set of data shows crime increased. Which do you trust? Now, look, the issue here seems to be in the way the data is collected and reported, and also on some of the missing pieces, again, of the overall picture. But it does seem that some of this is kind of changing, right? One of the big problems they have is that because the shift happened in 2021, a lot of agencies had to adjust in terms of how they collect data and how they report it. Now, it does note that while only a third of the local police departments reported the same homicide figures as the FBI, the Marshall Project actually did look into it, and they found in the overall picture that when you look at the updated local statistics compared to the ones by the FBI, it's actually become kind of close when you look at it at like a national level. Now, the Marshall Project said this: of the largest cities, or the Marshall Project compared FBI statistics with the local statistics, most of the numbers are spot on or show small differences. They note this: Trump is right that the National Crime Victimization Survey is considered a more robust data source than the preliminary quarterly numbers from the FBI. And again, that's the difference on Republicans or Democrats, depending on which one they're looking at. But it says, however, the most recent data on this, the NCVs, is nearly 18 months out of date and says nothing about what crime rates look like right now. Now, notes that Trump also left out that the same year's FBI crime data, the other national gold standard, showed a slight decrease in 2022, right? And so what it seems is that a lot of the problems in these statistics from a few years ago was that reports were measuring two different sets of data. The FBI crime data, what did it go by? Well, that went by incidents reports to the police. The other set of data, the big one, the one being cited by a lot of Republicans, was from the victimization surveys on how people were experiencing crime. And it seems these two sets of statistics, right? These are creating the very starkly different views on crime right now. And the big question is, well, which side do you believe? Do you believe the officially reported data is more trustworthy? Again, given that some of it is not being reported from different agencies and there's differences in data depending on the time it takes to investigate, or do you believe the victimization surveys on this other side of it, which is again more from the ground level and reporting that they've been victims of crime? Which do you think is more accurate? And so the issue for America right now is that, well, there's different views on the state of the country when it comes to crime. Do you believe that things are getting better? Do you believe it's getting worse? It's really based on this difference in data. Now look, in other news, there's a legal battle starting up over the use of AI technology to make election memes. And this started with new anti-deepfake laws that were recently passed in California by Governor Gavin Newsom last week. We'll be talking more about this when we come back from a quick break.
Experts agree. One of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges. With a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold, you can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low-price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.
Welcome back. There's a new legal battle starting up over the use of memes when it comes to elections. Now, This started with these new anti-deepfake laws that were recently passed in California by Governor Gavin Newsom last week. You know, deepfakes are the ability to maybe mimic a person's face or voice and have it look like they said or did something they did not do. Some people are using this to make funny videos. Some people are doing it in ways that are more deceptive. And this is kind of where the debate is right now. Now, Newsom signed 3 bills to, quote, combat deepfake election content. And what these bills do in a nutshell is it requires disclosure or the removal of AI-generated deepfake content related to elections during a certain time frame on social media or election advertising. Although the law does not apply to parody or satire content, there are some concerns this scope could actually change. And that often happens, right? They introduce a law, they find the law is maybe not broad enough, and so they expand it. That oftentimes happens. And there's also concerns that other states could actually follow suit with California and pass similar laws. Now, one of these bills that Newsom signed is AB 2839. And that, it says it, quote, expands the scope of existing law to prohibit materially deceptive content of elected officials, candidates, elections officials, and others, authorizing them to file a civil action to enjoin the distribution of such material. And again, when it comes to law, that can be interpreted in many different ways. Basically, what it means, at least on the surface, politicians and others can now sue over election deepfakes in California if companies do not enforce these new regulations. Now look, this all started after a deepfake parody campaign video of Vice President Kamala Harris made rounds on social media. Now Elon Musk, he then shared this deepfake on X, and then Gavin Newsom used that and the video as an example when he pushed for new laws. And he stated, quote, manipulating a voice in a, quote, ad like this one should be illegal. And he said, I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. Now, all this focus on the deepfake ad sparked the creator of this meme, it wasn't really an ad, to take some actions. Because, you know, part of his argument is this is satire, it's comedy, and you can't restrict a person's free speech. That's where the nuance is, right? Politico said this: the creator of a video that used artificial intelligence to imitate Kamala Harris is suing the state of California after Governor Gavin Newsom signed laws restricting the use of digitally altered political deepfakes, alleging First and 14th Amendment violations. Now, the individual Christopher Coles, who goes by the name Mr. Reagan on X, has been at the center of the debate over the use of AI-generated material in elections since he posted the video in July, calling it a parody of a Harris campaign ad. And it features AI-generated clips mimicking Harris's voice and saying she's the, quote, ultimate diversity hire. And now what's happening? Well, Coles is suing. And he's arguing that Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to make computer-generated parody illegal and asserting that political satire is a fundamental First Amendment right. Now, the lawsuit filed Thursday in federal court seeks permanent injunctions against the laws. Now, again, this is going to be an interesting legal battle because, you know, when it comes to parody, historically, you're allowed to dress up like an individual and mock them. You're allowed to create cartoons and newspapers and otherwise that maybe make parodies of political issues. This is something that goes back to like the origin of newspapers. It's something that was even part of the political debates going back to the founding of the United States. And so the protection of free speech, even when it includes parody and comedy and things like this, tends to protect that as well. The problem we have now is that when it comes to deepfake technology, you can't really immediately discern that it's fake or real. And the problem we're having with that is that if you publish a video online and it looks like Kamala Harris or President Donald Trump is saying something, well, how do you discern whether they actually said it or not? How do you discern whether it's real or not? And so the argument is, well, maybe we should label it, maybe we should require some kind of, writing somewhere to make sure people don't take it out of context, because we do see that happening. And that's where the debate is. Where does, let's say, parody and comedy end, and where does actual manipulation and falsifying somebody's voice or whatever come into play? Because again, the nuance here is that if somebody tried to say that I said something I did not say and it damaged my reputation, I could sue them for libel. I could sue them for it. And so if somebody, for example, made a video using AI of me and used my likeness, used my voice, and did it in such a way that it made me say things I would never say, well, could I sue them? Well, yeah, you probably could, at least based on the way that normal libel laws work and defamation laws work. The question is, how does that tie in with AI? And the problem we have as a country and a world right now is we're kind of dealing with the emergence of these new technologies that are bringing about complications like this, issues that weren't really issues before. Now, that being said, the battle against memes, right, funny images and so on, is becoming a global phenomenon. This really started after the 2016 elections. Now, you might remember what happened back in 2016. Donald Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, and you had a lot of funny images and people taking videos and putting people's faces on cartoons and so on. And those videos, because they were funny, were being shared and going viral all over the internet. And those videos and funny pictures kind of became the campaign ads for the 2016 election. After Donald Trump won the election in 2016, a lot of different bodies that looked, for example, at, let's say, misinformation and disinformation, as they framed it, they started looking at how do you restrict, quote-unquote, false information from circulating online. And what they began doing was deplatforming a lot of individuals who they deemed as being extremists or spreading false information or rumors or whatever else. And that included a lot of actions, not just to deplatform a lot of YouTubers and even close down a lot of Facebook groups and so on that were kind of becoming the hubs of communication and kind of maybe an alternate political worldview. They shut those down. And then they started going after the ability to create memes. Now, those laws more focused in Europe. And a lot of, for example, the anti-meme laws were made in different countries, Europe, Canada, and elsewhere. But in America, where we have the Constitution and deeper protections on free speech, those haven't really come here yet. AI is now changing that. And again, with these legal challenges, we'll have to see, well, where does parody end and where does defamation begin? That's going to be the argument, very likely. Now, an argument would be that this will stop things like foreign disinformation, which actually is becoming an issue, although it's become politicized as well. This is the problem. Things that are not foreign disinformation are being labeled as foreign disinformation. And so a lot of people have kind of the boy who cried wolf phenomenon going on, where they told us that everything is foreign disinformation, so you don't believe it anymore. There actually is some. For example, the FBI is now warning that the Iranian regime is trying to both assassinate Donald Trump, including warning Trump about this. And they're also noting that Iran is trying to alter the outcome of the elections. The Trump campaign itself noted this when they were breached recently by Iranian hackers, and information on their campaign was even leaked to U.S. media. We know, for example, that the Chinese Communist Party is starting up domestic news outlets, and even, for example, using its spies to collect data and feeding that to other news outlets. Disinformation is taking place. The problem is, because it's become politicized, people don't know what's true and what's not. But the issue you have with anti-deepfake laws, again, is where do you begin restricting freedom of speech in order to fight back against actual existing threats? And, social media is kind of becoming the big focus of this, because while Americans can have a platform of free speech, other countries, including spies and other regimes, can use that open platform in order to undermine our country. This is the very delicate balance they're facing right now. And how do you approach that, right? That's the challenge. Now, in other news, American troops are now heading back to the Middle East. This is raising concerns that the United States could get pulled into yet again another war, as Israel is expanding its attacks against Hezbollah. I'll be talking about this more only on epochtv.com. So if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, there's a link in the description below. Click on that. You'll get access to the rest of this episode, as well as our whole library of shows and our hard-hitting documentaries and issues that matter, like the Chinese Communist Party's 100-year plan to defeat the United States. The CCP is one of the biggest threats to America. They're using things like propaganda, video games, entertainment, movies, culture to subvert and influence the next generation. If you want to find out more about the CCP's plotting against America, watch my documentary, The Final War, the 100-year plot to defeat America. You can find the link to that in the description below, and I'll show you all the trailer before we go exclusively to epochtv.com for the rest of this episode. I'll see you there.
The greatest threat facing the United States is the CCP.
The Epoch Times investigation team had studied the CCP for years, but what we uncovered was yielding evidence beyond our imagination.
With Chairman Mao, with the Prime Minister, our talks have been characterized by frankness.
The Clinton administration said, oh, don't worry about it. This will be a poison pill for China.
China's strategic goal is to make sure that the U.S. has 4 enemies, and one of them must be a terrorist group.
We are giving of our life's blood so that the Chinese Communist Party can survive and thrive.